We've got a big drone showdown today. We are talking about the best drones for public safety. We'll go through each category, talk about each drone. At the end of this, you're gonna be able to decide which drone might be right for you or your public safety agency. It is a beautiful day here in the Midwest. The sun is shining, the birds are chirping, and we are talking about drones. Hey everybody, I'm David from Aerial Influence. Thank you so much for stopping by. That's right, we are talking about the best drones for public safety, from little to big, from cheap to expensive. You're gonna know all about these drones by the time we finish. But before we get started, please give us a like and a subscribe. That keeps this channel going. You know, we had one video that actually did 27 million views. It was a short. It had nothing to do with drones. I'll link to it so you can take a look at it as well. We made no money on it, but we did gain a lot of viewers. So anyway, give us a like and a subscribe. All right, let's get started. Well, first I got to introduce you to the drones that we are talking about today. First up is the DJI Mavic 3 Thermal. This is the smallest drone we have. Next up is the Autel Evo 2 Enterprise 640t version 3. It has the longest name of any of the drones we're talking about today. Next up is the Autel Evo Max 4T. Then we have the DJI Matrice 30t. And finishing things up is the DJI Matrice 350. I'm also going to talk about a couple bonus drones at the very end of this, something that might be useful for public safety as well. Okay, let's talk about size and deployability. The Mavic 3T, the Autel Evo 2, the Autel Evo Max, and the M30t can all be deployed in under a minute. I think the smaller drones like the Mavic 3T are gonna deploy a little bit quicker, but the reality is you can deploy all of those drones in under a minute. Now the Matrice 350 is gonna take a little bit longer to deploy because you gotta put the legs on, you gotta put your payloads on, you gotta put the batteries in, you gotta spread the arms, and then you gotta take off. So it does take a little bit longer. You're talking 3 minutes maybe to deploy that drone. It may take a little bit longer, maybe a little shorter if you really practice at it. But the fact is the M350 is definitely going to take you longer. If you want to deploy quickly, you want to go with the smaller drones. Next up, let's talk about one of the main things that people want to get these drones for, and that is the thermal capabilities. All of these drones have high resolution 640 by 512 thermal sensors on them, so you are going to be able to read heat signatures at 400 feet. I think if we had an expert on thermal imagery, he or she could sit down and tell us which one of these has the best thermal capabilities. But to my eye, I think they are all actually pretty equal. So you're not going to lose out on any of these drones in terms of the thermal capabilities. From the Mavic 3T all the way up to the Matrice 350 with the Zenmuse H20t, you're going to get a great thermal image from every one of these drones. Next up, let's talk about zoom capabilities. They all can shoot in 4K, so that's a good thing. The DJI Mavic 3T has a 56 times hybrid zoom. The Autel Evo 2 has a 16 times zoom, so this is the least zoom for any of these cameras. However, it does have an 8K sensor on it. So the others are all 4K. This one is 8K, so you're gonna be able to crop into that image as well. So that is something that Autel has, but they do have the least amount of zoom power. Next up is the Autel Evo Max. It has a 10 times optical zoom and a 160 times digital zoom, so it can get right in there. Does it compare to the other drones we're about to talk about? Well, let's see. Next up is the M30t, 16 times optical zoom, 180 times digital zoom. So that is an incredible zoom range for a drone like this. The DJI Matrice 350 with the Zenmuse H20t has a 23 times optical zoom, a 200 times digital zoom. So this drone takes the cake in terms of zoom range. Laser rangefinder. That's right, some of these drones have laser rangefinders on them. What do laser rangefinders do? Well, you can actually point the drone, point the camera at a certain location. If you activate the laser rangefinder, it is going to be able to tell you the distance of that location from the drone. It is going to be able to tell you the location of that drone with the actual GPS location. So it's going to give you longitude. So you can point at a building and it's going to literally tell you the latitude and longitude of that location. Or say there's a missing person and the drone finds that missing person. You can point the drone at that person and tell your colleagues exactly where they're at because you've got the longitude. So which drones have this feature? Well, not the DJI M3T, not the Autel Evo 2. Those drones do not have laser laser rangefinders on them, but the Autel Evo Max does have a laser rangefinder on it. The DJI M30t also has a laser rangefinder on it, and the Matrice 350 with the Zenmuse H20t. They all have laser rangefinders on them. So if a laser rangefinder is important to you, you're gonna wanna go with the Autel Evo Max 4T, the DJI M30t, or the DJI Matrice 350 with that Zenmuse H20t. All right, let's talk about the flight time of these drones. That is a very important topic for most people. They want to know how long their drone is going to be able to fly. Now, keep in mind that all these flight times are in perfect condition. So I'm going to give you a number, but you're going to have to subtract from that, 3 to 4 minutes at least, I would say, from that number. So let's get started. I'll tell you what the flight time of each of these is, but just keep that in mind. You're never probably going to get that actual flight time. The Mavic 3T has a 45-minute flight time, so that's very, very respectable for a little drone like this. The Autel Evo 2 has a 38-minute flight time. The Autel Evo Max 4T has a 42-minute flight time. The DJI M30t has a 41-minute flight time. And the DJI Matrice 350 has a 55-minute flight time. So obviously the DJI M350 wins in this category because it has a longer flight time, and actually a much longer flight time. So flight time is really important to you. Maybe you want to look at the Matrice 350, but I'm going to give you pricing later on, so you might want to stick around for that. All right, next up, only 2 of these drones are capable of using 2 controllers. So why would you use 2 controllers? Well, one person can fly the drone while the other person just focuses on using the gimbaled camera. And how do they do this? How does the pilot know where he's going if somebody else is controlling the camera? Well, there is an FPV camera on the M30t and the Matrice 350. Well, basically it is a static camera. It doesn't move at all. It is a wide angle camera that is gonna allow the pilot to actually fly the drone. He doesn't have to worry about the gimbaled camera. That is up to the other guy. Having dual controllers also gives you the capability of doing a handoff. So what is a handoff? A handoff would be like, I'm flying my drone right here. I fly it a certain distance, say half a mile away. I can still see it in my line of sight, but my business partner is over there and he can see it in his line of sight as well. He can then take control of the drone as long as he has the remote that is actually linked to that drone. So some really cool things that you can do with 2 controllers, but it's only on 2 of these drones, the DJI Matrice 30t and the DJI Matrice 350. Next up, let's talk about transmission range, and that means the range that the drone can go away from the remote and still have a good connection with the remote. Now again, these numbers I'm going to give you are really pumped up. Basically without any obstructions, in perfect conditions, they say that these drones can get this transmission range. But just know you're never going to get this kind of distance on your transmission range, and really you don't need it. You can only fly the drone in your line of sight. Most of us would never have a reason to get this sort of transmission range. Both the Mavic 3T and the Autel Evo 2 come in with 9-mile transmission range. The Autel Evo Max, the DJI M30t, and the Matrice 350 all come in with a 12-mile range. Again, you're never going to get it. You probably would never need it, but those are the ranges that these companies list. Let's talk about payloads. So all of these drones are capable of taking payloads of different kinds. You can put things like speakers or spotlights on these drones from the DJI M30t all the way up to the Matrice 350. They all have places for attachments. Now the Autel Evo Max, we're still waiting for that drone to come out with some attachments. I know they're gonna have an RTK attachment. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But all of these drones have the capability of doing it. Autel just hasn't come out with those attachments yet. It's a brand new drone. The winner, once again, in this category is the DJI Matrice 350. Why? Because you can put actually 3 payloads on at one time. If you wanted to have a speaker and a spotlight on this drone, you could put the speaker on top, you could put the spotlight on the bottom, and then you'd still have a spot to put the camera. So it's a very versatile drone. Again, it's not something, if you want quick deployability, you're not gonna want this drone probably, but it does have the capability of having several payloads on at once. So a really impressive feature of the M350 is that you can put those multiple payloads on the drone. Obstacle avoidance. All of these drones have obstacle avoidance. There are sensors around these drones, 360 degrees on the back, on the front, on top, on the sides. There are sensors all over these drones, telling it what is around it. So if it gets close to something, it's gonna tell you, hey, I don't like this. I'm gonna slow down, I'm gonna stop, because I don't like what I'm seeing and what I'm about to run into. So all of these drones do that. Now the Autel Evo Max 4T says it has 720-degree obstacle avoidance. I don't even know what that means, but it's very well protected. But you do not want to count on obstacle avoidance. You want to fly smart. Don't fly close to anything. Don't rely on the obstacle avoidance. It works great, but it's not always going to work. Sometimes, you know, as great as these drones are, they fail. So you do not want to rely on the obstacle avoidance. You just want to rely on yourself. Rely on your brain. Be smart. Some of these drones actually can do object tracking. It's very cool. It's a little bit creepy, but what am I talking about with object tracking? Well, the Autel Evo Max 4T, the M30t, and the Matrice 350 all do object tracking. When you put it in this mode, it'll actually put a dot over every car that it sees or every person that it sees. You can touch on that person or car, and the drone is gonna follow it. Now, the drone doesn't actually fly following it. It's not like it's like going along the side of the road while it's following this drone. They use their really powerful zoom lenses to follow the drone. And because some of these drones have zoom ranges that can go up to 200 times, the camera can actually follow that object for miles and miles. Now, what's the downside? If that car or person goes behind a building or a tree, the drone is obviously gonna lose it. But this is a really cool feature. It is only on the Autel Evo Max 4T, the M30t from DJI, and the DJI Matrice 350 with that Zenmuse H20t camera. Geo-fencing, holy crap, this is a huge plus for Autel. Autel does not do geo-fencing. What is geo-fencing? Well, essentially it's making it so you can't fly in certain areas, like your drone literally will not take off, and DJI does geo-fencing. So if there's an area, even if you have FAA approval to fly, if there is an area that DJI thinks you shouldn't be flying in, they can stop you from flying. So think of like federal buildings, football stadiums, when there's a game going on, that sort of thing. DJI is gonna stop you from flying your drone. You just will not be able to take off. Now you can go to DJI and try to get that area unlocked for yourself. It's jumping through a couple more hoops, but it really is a huge plus for Autel. You're gonna be able to fly wherever you wanna fly as long as you're doing it legally and you've got FAA approval. Seeing in the dark. Not only can these drones see in the dark with thermal, but some of them actually have a night vision function. Basically, they are using ambient light, so moonlight or city light, they are using those sources of light to really brighten up the scene. Now, the Mavic 3T, the Autel Evo 2, they do not have night mode, like a night vision at all, but the Autel Evo Max 4T, the DJI M30t, and the DJI Matrice 350 with the H20t all have a night vision. Now, I'll probably do a video later on comparing the night vision modes just to see which ones are better, but I'm gonna have to wait till there's a full moon so we can see if it works. Well, how do these drones do in the weather? Well, the DJI Mavic 3T and the Autel Evo 2, they are not weather resistant at all. So you really don't want to fly these drones in any sort of precipitation. If you sense that it's starting to rain, if you start feeling some sprinkles coming on, you want to bring these drones back home because they have no IP rating. Each of these have a temperature rating of 14 degrees all the way up to 104 degrees. So both of these drones will do fairly well in cold or hot temperatures. The Autel Evo Max 4T has an IP43 rating, so it's gonna take a little bit of rain, a little bit of snow. The DJI M30t and the M350 both have IP55 ratings, so they are gonna do very well in inclement weather. They'll do well in rain or snow. Now, I wouldn't go out and just like fly them because you want to in rain or snow. Don't fly in a downpour unless you absolutely have to, if it's to save a life. I wouldn't press it. You know, these drones are great. They are weather resistant, but you don't want to press it too hard and screw your drone up. The Autel Evo Max, the M30t, and the M350 all have a rating of -4 degrees all the way up to 122 degrees. So really all of these drones do well in like hot or cold weather. They're all gonna do pretty well, but the M350, the M30t, and the Autel Evo Max are gonna definitely have a higher temperature rating and a lower temperature rating. All right, we gotta talk about smart controllers. The DJI Mavic 3T has the smallest with a 5.5 6.5-inch screen. Still a great smart controller. It runs Pilot 2. Here is where Autel really shines again, and that is with their smart controllers. It has a very bright 2000 nits, 7.9-inch screen. So a large screen that is very, very bright. It is gonna help you in direct sunlight to still be able to see the screen, because you know it can be hard sometimes to see. It just is. Sometimes you need a sunshade. But with this drone, with this remote, you shouldn't have to do this. So this big remote is the same for the Autel Evo Max 4T and the Autel Evo 2 Enterprise Dual 640T. All right, so I went inside to edit and I realized that I forgot to mention the smart controller for the M30t and the Matrice 350. This is an awesome smart controller. It is big, it is bulky. You're gonna wanna use the lanyard, which is sold separately. You're gonna want a lanyard for this because it's not something you wanna drop. It is a great smart controller with a really, really bright screen. Not quite as bright as the Autel smart controller. It is also not quite as big as the Autel smart controller. So really for my money, I like that Autel smart controller quite a bit, but the DJI one for the M350 and the M30t is actually really, really solid as well. You're not going to go wrong with either one of these smart controllers. Hot swappable batteries, the Autel Evo Max 4T, the DJI M30t and the M350 all have hot swappable batteries. What does that mean? It means that you can be flying, you land your drone, you go up, you take the battery out, put a new battery in, the drone goes straight back up again. So the power stays on at all times. You don't have to reboot the drone and then take it back up again. The Mavic 3T and the Autel Evo 2, neither of those have hot swappable batteries. So when you land, you have to turn it off, take the battery out, put the new battery in, turn it back on, and then take off, but it'll take a little bit more time. RTK, do all of these drones have the capability of doing RTK? And what the hell is RTK? Well, RTK stands for real-time kinematic, but what it is basically GPS on steroids. It's gonna give you centimeter level accuracy on your flights. You know, I'm gonna do a test later on where we're gonna actually test how accurate the drone is using a landing pad and seeing how close it gets to where it took off from. A drone that is not using RTK can drift. It can be left or right, say 3 to 5 feet possibly as you're flying. But when you're using RTK, it actually keeps you dead on. You are on the exact path that you need to fly. And when you land, it is literally gonna land on the exact spot that you took off from. It is that accurate. The Mavic 3T, the Autel Evo 2, and the Autel Evo Max, they all are capable of doing RTK, but you have to buy an additional module to put on top. You screw it into the top of it, and that gives it the RTK capabilities. But the DJI M30t and the M350 both have RTK built into them already, so you don't have to buy an additional module to put on top. Now, what you do need is the ability to log into an RTK network. You can do that using a public RTK network, which is broadcast. Some states have them statewide. Other states, you have to actually pay for that service. Or you could buy an RTK base station. You set that up. It creates an RTK network that you then connect to your drone. It's a little expensive. The DJI one is around $4,000, but it probably would save you money over time instead of subscribing to an RTK network. All right, let's talk about pricing. Everybody wants to know pricing. Coming in at the low end is the DJI Mavic 3T. That's coming in with a starting price of around $5,500. That's one battery, smart controller, a hard case, and it comes with 1 year of DJI Care Enterprise. Most people are gonna add things like a battery kit to it. The battery kit is around $650, I believe. So that is gonna add to the price. Then if you want a speaker spotlight, that's gonna add to the price as well. So if you are fully loaded, you know, with all your batteries, all the accessories that are available, you're probably looking closer to $8 grand. The Autel Evo 2 Enterprise Dual 640T comes in at around $69.99. Now, this is actually a great value because it comes with a bundle already. You get 3 batteries with that price. That's a good thing. You get the attachments, the speaker, spotlight. You get those with that price. So for $7,000, you are getting the full bundle. So actually the Autel Evo 2 is gonna be a little bit cheaper fully loaded than the Mavic. Even though the Mavic comes in at a better starting price, the Autel may actually win in the price war between those two drones. The Autel Evo Max 4T comes in at $89.99. That is with 1 battery, the smart controller, hard case, and some extra props. Once you add some extra batteries to that, you're gonna end up closer to the $10,000 range. And then if future attachments come out, so like I said, Autel doesn't have any attachments on top just yet, If future attachments come out, that's gonna add to that price as well, but still a great value for everything that that drone can do. Okay, real quick, I'm interrupting this video because we just got news from DJI that they're actually cutting the price on the M30t and the M350. So this is brand new news to us, but they've drastically cut the prices. Now the M30t, you can get that for under $9,000. That's just starting out. That's the basic bare bones. No batteries with that, so you're gonna have to add batteries to that as well. So you're looking at that and you're gonna get closer to like $10,000 to $12,000 if you're adding all the accessories. And the M350 looks like it's gonna be under $10,000 for the bare bones package there. You're still gonna have to add batteries to that. Obviously you're going to have to add a gimbal. The gimbal, you're looking at $12,000-$13,000 if you're talking about like the H20t, and you got to get the battery station as well. So the M350 is going to be pricey. It's not going to be as pricey as it used to be, but you're looking at the mid-20s depending on what sort of setup you get, what gimbals you want, what payloads you want for that drone. So big news, that is going to help a lot of these agencies that just can't reach what the M30t used to be. So they're now possibly going to be able to reach it with this price cut. So that's good news. Now I also want to talk about two other drones that our public safety agencies are using. Those are the DJI Avata and the DJI Mini 3. Both of these drones are actually used by a lot of our public safety agencies. They'll fly indoors with them. So think of a SWAT team. You want to send a drone in before you send an actual person in. Well, a drone like the DJI Avata, it's got prop guards on it. The pilot is using goggles, so he has a first-person view of what is going on and can get real situational awareness for the SWAT team before anybody has to be sent into the building. A really cool feature about the Avata is that if it hits a wall or something, or if it flips over, it has what's called turtle mode. So you press the button, it starts two of its props, flips itself back over, and you can take off again. So that's a really cool feature. A lot of our SWAT teams really like that feature. You can also get prop guards for the Mini 3. It can fly indoors, but the one that I really recommend is the Avata. I think that is a great indoor drone. Another really cool thing about the Avata is there's this little saddle you can put on it, and you can put little flashlights on the side. So if you want to fly in the dark, you can do that with this drone. You can actually put those little flashlights on the side. It was designed by a content creator named OriginalDobo. He designed it, he 3D printed it, and now he's selling it from his online store. So I'm gonna actually link to that below where you can find it to buy that little saddle for the Avata. But anything else you need, if you wanna buy any of these drones, make sure you reach out to us. We really appreciate you stopping by. Please give us a like and a subscribe. Again, that keeps this channel going. We work really, really hard on these videos for you guys. We hope you enjoy them. We'll see you next time.